Exciting edition of American Warrior Radio, the place to be for news, notes, interviews, and current events for all issues military and veteran related. If you or someone you know has ever worn the uniform of the U.S. Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, or National Guard or Reserves, you've come to the right place. American Warrior Radio, right here on the Talk to Me station, AM 1300 WMEL, sponsored by AVET Project. This program is all about supporting our troops. So all you patriotic Americans out there, get comfortable. Let's kick the tires and light the fires. Locked and loaded, we are ready to roll. My name is Garen Cohn. I'm the president and founder of AVET Project. I'm an Air Force veteran and a retired legal advocate for veterans. But as you know, and as always, I'm not flying through the airwaves alone.
I'm Glenn McGuffey, manager of your Brevard County Veteran Service Team, and I'm retired from the Air Force, so we got two ex-blue suiters coming at you today, along with, again, a very extra special guest to talk about a very timely subject that, again, you're probably hearing it here first for a lot of people, unfortunately, because this is another one of those important topics that we need to get the word out, and people need to apply. It's like the money they gave people who were involuntarily extended. Only a small percentage of them applied and got the money that was due to them. And this one is kind of the same way, as you'll find out as we go through it today. So tell us, we got a special guest today. I think you've had an opportunity to talk to him, Garen.
I certainly have, and the topic we're discussing, I don't care if you're in North Dakota or in the hills of Afghanistan, this is applicable and it's important. So grab your pen and paper and get ready for a special guest, a distinguished gentleman we have who happens to be the director of the Physical Disability Board of Review. Michael, are you there?
I sure am, thanks.
Well, Michael LoGande is our special guest, and we just kind of opened the topic up, but can you give us a little bit of background about yourself, sir?
I certainly will, thanks. First of all, I want to say thanks for having me on. I too, like the two of you, am an Air Force veteran. I served for 25 years in uniform. I was a pilot, flew T-37s, C-141s, and KC-10s, and I graduated the Air Force Academy. I retired 2 years ago, actually, and at that point in time, I was hired on to be the president and director of the DoD Physical Disability Board of Review.
Thank you so much for your service to our country and your continued civil service to our country. I can't think of anybody more qualified. You and I had a chance to speak last week, and you really do put a positive spin on this program, because this program we're going to discuss is something that, you know, it has a brother or a parallel program already in existence, but the PDBR, that's the Physical Disability Board of Review, and you're the director of it. Give us a little snippet of what this program actually seeks to accomplish.
I sure will. In 2008, the Congress had the perception that the services were unequally or inequitably treating service members with same or similar injuries or illnesses, which resulted in their separation from the service. So as a result, there was a discrepancy between the disability ratings assessed across the services for same or similar conditions. So Congress in 2008, as part of the National Defense Authorization Act, and more specifically the Wounded Warrior legislation, put language in directing the Department of Defense to establish the DoD Physical Disability Board of Review, which basically allows us to review the disability evaluations which resulted in a separation or severance, which is less than 30%, for those veterans who were separated between the dates of 11 September of 2001 and 31 December of 2009.
And Glenn, you see these folks every day in your office.
Yeah, and I note that the congressional concern seems to have been about the inequity between the branches of the service, and from my perspective as 20 plus years as the manager of the Veteran Service Team for the county, my concern is no matter what branch of the service it is, they're getting short-shifted, they're getting disabilities 20% or less, and right out of the chute, the VA gives them 30, 40, 50, 60, and then you're left with only one option for those people, and that's to go to the Military Board of Correction records, and the success rate there is not real high, not like this Physical Disability Review Board is, and we'll cover some of those stats, I'm sure, here in just a minute. And I'm glad to see it in, and I've got some more comments as I hear from you and Garen talking about this. But a very strong component of concern of mine, and will continue to be, is the VA is basically using the same evidence that the military did, especially when they issue a rating decision right after the person gets out of the military that's significantly higher than the military gave them, and the military didn't give them high enough to retire. So how do you feel about that as it interplays with this whole process, Mike?
Well, my take on that, sir, is quite simply this. In 2008, when Congress enacted the Wounded Warrior legislation in the 2008 National Defense Authorization Act, they gave the services, or directed the services, to use the exact same criteria that are being used by the DoD Physical Disability Board of Review. In other words, the services were directed to, as well as the PDBR was directed to, use the VA Schedule of Rating Disabilities. So our application of the VASR, the VA Schedule of Rating Disability, should be consistent with that of what the VA would have originally assigned these individuals for those particular conditions. The times that you're going to see discrepancies between what the VA gave it a veteran versus what the services assigned a veteran for a disability is the services will only rate those conditions that are unfitting conditions for their continued service within that branch.
That word, service disqualifying, right?
That is correct. Whereas the VA will look at the entire person, in their entirety. They will look at everything, every condition, those things that are fitting as well as unfitting that are rateable by the VA in their context.
As it relates to their employability and maintaining a gainful occupation.
That is correct, sir. And that important distinction is something that's frankly misunderstood by the vast majority of not only veterans who are out having to deal with these processes, but also people within the services. I'll be the first to admit that I'm sort of astonished that the number of people within the services who still don't really have a complete grasp of what the disability evaluation system entails today. A lot of strides have been made to blend the two systems together with the integrated disability evaluation system, where the services determine fitness or unfitness and then hand it off to the VA to rate. My understanding is that a lot of the veterans are pleased with that process because the ratings that they're given are ratings assessed by the VA raters, not necessarily by the service.
Yes, and as an advocate, again, I'm all for that, and I've pushed on previous shows here, as some of our long-term listeners will know, to put that kind of system into effect. I think the military's duty is to determine just that, your fitness for military duty. Then it's up. The VAs are really the more expert people at determining all your disabilities. And if they're going to service connect your disabilities, well, by golly, they were caused by your service to our country, and they deserve the consideration up front. And if that qualifies you for retirement that you otherwise wouldn't have, that's the way it should be from my perspective, anyway.
Yes, sir. I understand. And I'll tell you, we have had the luxury at the DoD PDBR, the Physical Disability Board of Review, of really being able to adjudicate these cases without influence whatsoever. And Garen and I discussed this the other day. Without any influence from anyone within the DoD process. They gave us an edict to go forth and do this fairly using the rule set that Congress gave us in the 2008 National Defense Authorization Act. And they wanted us to do this so that we can take care of the veterans. There's a genuine caring, if I could say it that way, especially within the Office of the Secretary of Defense, more particularly in the Wounded Warrior Care and Transition Policy Office. These folks really want us to do this right. I mean, they're entrusted with ensuring that we care for our veterans when they come home, and that their conditions are appropriately assessed, rated when necessary, or treated, and we return them back to service if that's what they so desire, and that's what they rate as well. So I feel comfortable with the way things have been handled at the DoD level. and I feel as though we've been uninfluenced in any way by anyone to try to sway which way we rate. We've had enormous leeway to do what we believe is right in applying the VA schedule of rating disabilities as we review these cases.
Well, that's great, and I'm pleased to hear that beyond belief. And maybe Garen would switch over to the basic eligibility for this program, so the folks out there listening will know who can apply.
Exactly, and as we come to a spot in the program where we have to take a fuel break here and get some commercial time in, as we come back, though, I want to discuss that, Michael, if you would, the eligibility criteria, and then we're going to hit on the difference between the BCMR, which is kind of an after-the-fact consideration of this same issue, versus what you're offering to our past service members. So, folks, we want you to stay tuned to that. We're going to be coming back here on American Warrior Radio to discuss this important topic. You got to take some notes, because this is going to apply to anybody that you know that may have separated with disability between, say it again, Michael, what are the dates of...
Yes, sir. It's September 11th, 2001 and December 31st of 2009.
Very good. So, folks, stay tuned to WMEL, the Talk to Me station, right here on AM 1300 and American Warrior Radio. We will be back in just a moment.